Joining us now on a Worldwide Exchange exclusive is Jean-Yves Fillion. He's the CEO of BNP Paribas USA. He's also the chairman of corporate and institutional banking for the Americas, and we appreciate him joining us here live on Worldwide Exchange. Jean-Yves, it's a pleasure to have you back on the program during these very, very important times. We want to talk about getting your employees back into the office, the Fed, the ECB, ESG. But first, we need to ask, as somebody who is the U.S. CEO of a company that employs thousands of people across the country, in New York to Bank of the West, what is BNP Paribas doing for its part to make sure that we try to reduce and benefit income inequality and racial divides, gender divides, everything that is dividing this nation right now? From your perspective, what can we do better to make sure that every American has a shot in this country?
Well, Brian, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Listen, the series of events that led to this situation are tragic and heartbreaking. This just goes against, the values we have at BNP Paribas and against our deep commitment to diversity and inclusion. We're very, very saddened.
Yeah, it has been a tough commentary, and we'll have to wait and see how the days and weeks certainly play out. And best to you and all of your employees everywhere, Jean-Yves. And with that in mind, you have a couple thousand employees in New York City. Many of them are in a skyscraper. As we start to discuss reopening New York City, parts of New York and New Jersey, you and I have spoken. What are the biggest challenges that are facing getting those employees back to work? And also, you may have a lot of employees watching right now. Do you have any timeline for that?
Well, Brian, you know the bank very well. We have 14,000 employees in the United States. We have 3,500 employees in the New York metropolitan area. And in my job, the absolute priority is really the security and safety of our employees. I'm happy to report that today we have actually over 90% of our US staff working from home, and the bank is moving full speed, serving clients. I want to thank them, by the way, for their commitment and dedication, because it would not have happened without them. Then, Brian, there is no absolute, rush to come back to the office. However, to your point, we've been doing a lot of planning. What I can tell you is it's going to be gradual, it's going to be phased. Don't expect more than 15% of employees back in the corporate offices, and it's going to happen over probably the summer month. We will, ask the staff working in critical areas such as, trading and payment and clearing to probably come back first, and we'll reassess. It's going to be depending on, state guidelines, on growth policy. We're a global bank, Brian, and we have a strong presence in Asia, in Europe. We've learned a lot from our colleagues there because we saw it coming, going west. And we've learned how to engage with employees, how to understand better their actual, concerns. And, they're around commuting, public transportation. They're around testing, who's going to be tested, what kind of testing. It's around social distancing. It's around cleaning, making sure the office is safe.
Yeah, so two things there. So it sounds like 15% of your employees probably, not or maybe coming back out of Manhattan this year, Jean-Yves. So it sounds like what we saw in New York City, which, like many other cities, had protests and there was some clashes between police and citizens. That, while terrible to watch and terrible to experience as a nation, may not influence your calculus, your thinking with regards to getting employees back in, because they probably weren't coming back already this year, correct?
One of the main paradigms in what happened with the pandemic, we've learned how to work from home or how to work from anywhere. Then really, coming back to the office will be around making sure that, employees will be safe in the building, and obviously depending on what occurs outside of the building as well. Then that's really what we're taking into consideration. And again, we've been efficient. We've worked very efficiently with a large part of the staff, outside of the office. As you told me, Brian, even 2 months ago, that we would be running this bank with, 90% of the U.S. staff, working from home, I would not have believed you.
Yeah, and if you had told me 2 months ago, Jean-Yves, that we would have 40 million out of work, a global pandemic, and all those people working from home, I would not have believed you as well. I mean, think about 2 months ago, and I want you to address the state of business because your bank is really unique. You do trading, derivatives, high-level Wall Street work, but you also have Bank of the West, so you are doing retail and small business commercial banking in many parts of the United States as well. How much have you seen business change from 2 months ago to today, Jean-Yves?
Well, first and foremost, in terms of business, the bank has been really very active, supporting our clients across the full spectrum you just described. You know, on the corporate side, we've been leveraging the balance sheet. We've been providing access to capital markets in many different currencies. You know, in our case, in US dollars, we have a strong underwriting capabilities in the United States, in euros, where we lead. We've been very active as well, advising clients on hedging strategies and executing them, you know, with the increased volatility across rates and currencies, commodities, equities. On the retail side, as you mentioned very rightly, Brian, we've been supporting our individual clients, our small and medium sized businesses, participating to some government programs. One program you covered very well, Brian, is the Paycheck Protection Program. Do you know how many applications we processed over just a few days? Just a number. 18,000 applications, you know, 18,000 applications over a few days, converting into 3 billion of lending. And I'm very proud of that because we protected, doing so, over 300,000 jobs.
Wow, 18,000 applications in just a couple of days from part of the Bank of the West, I would imagine, Jean-Yves Fillion. I want to wrap it up with this, which is something that sort of backstops and I guess layers on top of all of this, which is our Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, your parent company in Paris, obviously, they are interconnected. There's been criticism that we have never gone this big, trillions of dollars globally. There's been criticisms that maybe it's not enough. Believe it or not, all of that layered across income inequality from Main Street to Wall Street. Do you agree with the Federal Reserve's actions? Do you agree with the European Central Bank's actions? Were they necessary? Were they too much? Were they not enough?
What I know, Brian, is they've been they've done a lot. You know, we have to commend central banks here, and particularly the Fed and the ECB, for, you know, adjusting monetary policy, from reigniting, expanding existing programs, for injecting liquidity, which, by the way, has stabilized capital markets. It's been done in good coordination with, you know, the administration here, treasuries, you know, the 2.2 trillion CARES program, the recent proposal led by the way, France and Germany for the 750 billion euros of, you know, rescue relief fund, which comes, by the way, in addition to what every individual states, you know, provides in Europe. And is it enough? I think it really depends on the pandemic. I think they've used pretty much a lot of the ammunitions. If there is a need for more, I think it's just going to be going deeper.